Hi folks, and welcome back to the channel. In today's episode we're going to be fitting our second row seats into the 110. Well, as you can see, I've reinstalled our seat frames, which was very simple. It was just a case of mounting the front legs onto the mounting points on the seat box, if you like. Fairly simple. I'll show you in detail how I got them mounted. The outside frames actually mount on the inside of the brackets, and then this centre frame goes in first because these two on the outside actually sit on top of it, as I'll show you now. So these actually sit on top. So I am missing the little rubber bush that goes in here, which I do have somewhere, so I'm going to try not to damage the paintwork on there, but it is Raptor, so it should be fairly substantial. So yeah, basically just got these bolted in. It's just two bolts, the shoulder bolts that we used when we did the pivot backs on the seats. They were all kept from when I removed them the first time. I gave them a little bit of a dusting over with some Raptor just to make them a bit more durable, a bit more presentable, but they were in pretty good shape, to be honest. So the seat bases are pretty simple. They just slot in and they've got captive nuts inside, which you locate the bolt through the front here into the captive nut. That's the simple part. On the rears, it should just be a case of mounting two bolts onto each one. One's a pivot bolt, and one is a capture bolt on the outside. Now I'm missing a spring on here, so that's something we're gonna have to replace on this side. So thinking about it, it's probably gonna be easier to do the seat backs because they need to be in the correct position, and I don't want any resistance from the pads. Once we've got the seat backs in, then we can then fit the seat bases. Now these are self-supporting, so the actual seat backs have a metal bracket. They're a lot stronger than the front ones, as you can see there. So they are self-supporting and they have got mounting points. So let's grab some seat backs now and have a look. Now we've gone for 3 low backs on ours, as you would in a standard Defender or early 110. You can get a high back, which some of you might want, because you did make some comments on missing out on the headrests on the front ones. So if that's something you wanted, you can get a high back. We've gone for the low backs just to keep the style the same. The bolts in the pack are here. Now we don't need these 2 washers and these longer bolts. They're for actually fixing the base on first. And these are our pivot bolts. So you can see they've got a little shoulder on them here, look. So little shoulder on there, and that is our pivot bolt. You've got 4 holes in here. There's 2 higher up, one there and one there. Now those 2 holes we don't use. Those are for reclining seats. We've got one here. Okay, and there's one right in the bottom corner here. So just pull that material away from it a little bit before you mark it. It's just there, look. What I'm going to use is, I've got this punch here. I'm just going to pass it through there, look, that's 1. And pass it through there for 2. Okay, now, as I said before, I want that material to be over a little tiny bit. So you've seen this probably a few times if you follow the channel. I'm going to use a screwdriver and I'm just going to twist it in there, and that's going to tear the material. Okay, and that is for our pivot bolt. And then we're going to go in with this one. Just gently rotate it, don't put too much pressure down. And there's our second one. So those are now clear for us to use. In there, just take that out. On the lower foremost part, just a little tiny dollop of glue on there, and our nylon washer. I haven't actually got that in the middle, have I? There. Okay. 2 holes here which we're not going to use. We're going to be using this one, which is just there. Right, so I've got my last seat back to fit, and that's on this side here. Now our catch, retaining catch, is on the outside, so I've put my bolt in there already. I've got my nylon washers glued onto the seat, so they're not too fiddly to fit. And then just need to drop this one down out of the way. So what I have been doing, and I'm not sure if it's the right way, I've been putting the nylon washer on the inside of this bracket so it rubs up against the other one. It's possible it goes the other on the outside, but I don't think so. I can't see the benefit. Anyway, can't do any harm. It's just a little bit fiddly to get your second washer on the inside, but at least one of them's glued. But you just don't want to do it too quickly where the glue hasn't gone off and you end up gluing two nylon washers together. And as I said before, just by hand, try and catch those threads. There we go. And then this side. I think it's possibly easier if you get that shoulder bolt through the bracket so it's not twisting. There we go. Just do that bolt up until it stops up against the frame, because that shoulder on that shoulder bolt will sit up against the frame. Like that. There we go. And then we're going to be ready to put the bases on. So you can see here what I've put in there is just a regular bolt. Now, unfortunately, our old seats didn't have the original catch pins. Now, the shoulder bolts, unfortunately, would be ideal, but the shoulder's not long enough. So what that means is it doesn't actually catch on this bracket unless you bend it, etc., and it's just not worth it. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and source some brass sleeves to go over those nice bits there. And this is just to stop them tipping forward when you're driving. If there's no one sitting in it, you don't want it tipping forwards. So they are useful, and you just release it to then bend it forwards. But for now, we're just going to go straight up against the bolt, and then hopefully we'll get some brass sleeves to go over those, but we can't use the old ones, unfortunately, because they're not long enough. So it did say in the instructions that we were going to have to find these locations and trim the carpet material out to expose them, but we're very lucky that Exmoor Trim have kindly done it for us. So these are simply a case of offering them up with our 2 bolts and getting them installed. Starting to look very nice. So they literally just slide into place. So I'm hoping we shouldn't have too much trouble finding those holes. There we go, looking good. Right, let's crack on, do the other 2. Oh, I think that's enough knee room as well for our guests in the back. Little wiggle of the seat base when you're putting it in does seem to help get it located correctly. So today's not just about fitting the second row seats. I've also been playing around with getting some door cards on our Series 2 doors. Now I've had to modify these slightly to allow for our check strap, and there was something else. Oh yes, I had to drill the holes through here as well to allow for our gas strut, which may or may not stay. But really pleased with how these have gone on. They're a bit rattly, which is a shame after we've just done all the soundproofing on the doors, but I've only managed to fit them on with 2 rivets and these bolts, so they're not fixed down completely. But the tricky part comes for the second row doors, because I don't believe, as far as I'm aware, we certainly here at LR Parts, I don't think we do a door card for a second row door. So it's going to mean modifying a front door card for the second row door. So I'm going to show you how I go about doing that and whether or not it works. And then I also managed to get some check straps on the second row doors, you can see just down here. And I've gone round here and I've gone round into the B pillar, which is a really neat and tidy way of doing it. And it's pretty simple to fit. You just basically mark from the outside using this buckle here, get them centre punched, drill through and just bolt them straight through into the bracket on the back there, and I'll show you on there. So it's a really nice, easy and I think tidy way of doing a check strap on the second row doors to match the fronts, and they're not obtrusive at all. So really pleased with how that's come out. So yeah, let's have a look at this second row door card and see what we can do. Now the trouble with this MDF on these door cards is it's actually quite hard to cut. The best way really is with a hacksaw. And then getting a straight line using a hacksaw is tricky, then you've got all the trim to consider, so it's not the easiest job in the world, but size-wise, we're well out. So if that's going on there. Okay, so for some reason, the door's actually deeper. So the depth of the frame on here is 41.5 centimetres. On here, it is 43.5. So for some reason, that is another 2 centimetres deeper. And I can't for the life of me work out how, because, so you can see. If you follow basically the line at the top of that dynamat there, that ridge and follow it to there, look, that is lower on the front door. So basically it's mounted higher up, and I guess that's because our locks are higher up, and you can see on there, look, the gap between the top of the lock and there is bigger than it is on the second row doors. Well, I've done a bit of research, I've had a look, and no, there is nothing out there for us to buy or modify. So Safari rear doors, obviously the latch is on the left hand side, so that's only going to work for one. I suppose you could flip it and make it work. But the actual mechanism's all different shape. I think we're just better off trying to make our own. So, I'm going to get a piece of cardboard. Now, it's not probably going to be in this video, but I'm going to basically do the template in this video. Then I'm going to find some MDF, get it, trim it, try and make it look good. So, there's our door card. Now, I've definitely overdone it for the hinge there. That doesn't need to be as big. But happy with that, and the good thing is we can then rotate it and flip it to do one for the left and one for the right. So we've got our template. Just going to make a note on the hinge part here. Going to make a note that that needs to be in a bit. So not so deep. There we go, we're ready. Well, I'm well chuffed how seats have gone in. I think they look fantastic. Obviously, there's still a few things that we need to tweak. Basically, the main thing is really the leg room for the second row passengers isn't really there at the moment. But if we get those adjustable runners and we fit those to the front seats, not only will we get a bit of an elevated position at the front, which would be great, but also it will allow us to move the seats forward and not be quite so greedy with our leg space and give the passengers a bit more of a comfortable space. I'm happy with the way it works with the bar. That's great. There's a few other jobs that I'd had hoped to get done in this episode, and that was actually fit the seat belts, but we're waiting on a couple of clamps and some fixings to come in for that, and also we're waiting for the galvanized anchor brackets for the seat belt location that we took off. If you looked at a previous episode when we stripped out the vehicle, these were completely rotten, and so we took those out and we're going to be fitting new ones. So that's going to be in the next episode, getting all the seat belts located, finishing off the job, getting everything in the back buttoned up, and then also we'll get finished with our second row door cards as well. So plenty to come in the next episode. That's going to be Thursday or Friday this week, but for now I'll leave it with you. Do subscribe if you haven't, give me a thumbs up if you'd like to, and I'll catch you on the next one.